think that's it. I think that was the warning.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. What's up, Holmes?
Now the warning? From shooting a music for a rock and roll band, I had to play a referee. I just ran right in the door, so I'm exhausted and stressed and scared, but I'm going to try to be happy with you. Thanks for joining me on the show, and thank you, Brian Provinciano, for coming on the show. You really did. You really showed up on the show.
Happy to be here.
You really did.
I'm so happy.
How was your weekend? What have you been...
Anywhere.
For me? I see to say. How's your weekend been? What have you been up to?
Serious weird feedback issue. 1 second.
Okay.
Oh, really? Is it hissing like a cobra? Did you hear any feedback, Ryan?
I didn't hear any feedback, but I'm always open to feedback.
You got a headset on, too. My camera's up here,
Okay,
but then
you might look fine.
Oh, well, it might be fine. Who knows? So, Brian, just tell me about your life. When you have been working on a video game nonstop for how many years now? How long? What's your City Rampage?
Well, I mean, I've been fiddling with this whole 8-bit GTA-style game concept for since like 2002, so it's been a long time. I've been working on it full time.
That's when it was Grand Theft Tendo?
Yep, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and that was going to be just kind of a fan game for fun at that point,
yeah.
like a free game.
And it was running on the NES, but it was a lot simpler because on the NES you really can't do what Retro City Rampage does. But at the same time, it wasn't very fun because you've got like 2 cars on screen at once and things like that. So for a few reasons, I decided to do an original game instead, and that's where Retro City Rampage came from.
Right. So when your life is making a video game for pretty much the same game for the past 9 years, what do you do on the weekend? Do you just keep working, or do you get to have fun at all? What's your life like?
I mean, it's nice that I'm. Let me just adjust here. That I'm self-employed here with the game. I've run the company, so I've got a flexible schedule, so I can kind of work whenever and take a break whenever. However, I still do end up working like 80 hours a week, so it's kind of good and bad. But yeah, this weekend I've been working and trying to get back used to a normal time, like sleep schedule, because this past week I had 3 like harsh all-nighters, and then the past few nights I got like 3 to 4 hours sleep, so it's been crazy.
Jesus, what are you doing? Are you writing code or something? Or are you hitting
writing,
deadlines?
Yeah, fixing bugs, the deadlines, the press stuff, because we did the big announcement of the PC version, the pre-orders, and PS3 and Vita, and then we did the album release, the soundtrack and the vinyl, and then and then I had to make a build for GDC of the game because it'll be playable at GDC. So that's debut news. That's debut news for Seth Holmes. It's going to be playable at GDC.
And that's next week, right? Is that GDC already?
Yeah, about a week, less than a week and a half.
Whoa, man. And you just were making the build last night? Is it all done?
It's all done, although I've been working a little bit. I mean, the game is just still fixing bugs, and so I'll send them another build to see if they can squeeze in the newest build, because the newest build is always the best.
Yeah, of course. So how does VBlank, that's your company, how does VBlank work? You're the president. Then you have people coding with you and making graphics with you, and you have an array of different musicians that are working on this specific game, but they're not.
I do pretty much everything. Although, yeah, I've got another artist, and I've got the musicians, and of course, Maxim, the artist, he does pretty much all the art now. Although I still squeeze in a little bit here and there. I love doing it, but with the schedule this tight, kind of gotta shift as much work away as I can.
That makes sense, yeah. But it all started as you doing the art, the programming, the writing, the design. Yeah. Jesus, what? Why? Why'd you do that to yourself?
Originally, it started just because it was my own personal thing. I wanted the accomplishment of this guy who created a whole GTA-style game himself. And originally, it was even more than this. I was building my own development hardware and all of that. But now it's
How old are you again, Brian? You just turned 17, right? 27.
27.
Really? Are you?
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
for you.
I just shaved, so I probably look about 16 right now. But,
You look fantastic as always.
oh,
So
shucks.
something I wanted to ask you. I talked to a fair amount of smaller developers who are starting up on the road, and did you get grants or anything to make this game, or you just
I
had to
wish I
self-fund it?
did.
Or?
I was saving up. I kind of was working on it part-time for years and years, and I really wanted to do it full-time, so I saved up for years, and then eventually, 2.5 years ago, went full-time, blew through all of that, then cashed into my retirement savings and blew through all that, and I borrowed some money from family, but it's been just, going right to the bone here.
Yeah, wow. It's something that I feel really passionate about, that people such as yourself shouldn't have to potentially die because they wanted to make a great video game.
That's
if
the
you
thing, yeah. I mean, if people have read the post-mortem on Super Meat Boy and so forth, then pretty much any game like this, you hear just how hard it was. They went to like having negative funds in their bank account and massive health scares. Both Ed and Tommy had like serious health scares. I've had a bunch of health issues with this, and just battling stuff from just like physical health things, just getting sick all the time. Like last year, I went through a period where I was just crunching so much and working so much that I got sick more in like a 2-month period last year than I had in my whole life, pretty much. It was just crazy.
Yeah, I
And
bet. Well, stress and bad
yeah,
nutrition and not
yeah,
sleeping. Wow, it
too
all
much
adds up.
coffee, and I didn't drink coffee really before at all, and now I don't again. But I went through a period where I was drinking it, and so it's tough. It really is tough, and I mean that's what sets us apart from the indie game that no one's heard of to the indie game that people have heard of. Part of it is working crazy hours just to make it. I mean, there's a term coined called AAA indie games, and it doesn't mean like blockbuster, massive graphics. It just means like high quality, high investment of time and money and so forth. And I'd consider Retro City Rampage that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So do you think that the way the game industry is structured today is better for someone like you or worse compared to, let's say, the 80s when one guy or a few guys could get together and make a game like Retro City Rampage, but at that point, those were like state-of-the-art graphics in the NES and Sega Master System days. So you could get health insurance.
Yeah.
You could not have to sell hundreds of thousands of copies because, an NES game that sold 100,000 copies would be considered a big success back then. You could kind of have your cake and eat it too in those days, but you wouldn't have the total independence that you have now. So what do you think is the best era for someone who's making a small-scale AAA game such as yourself?
I think that we're in the right era right now. I think that things are better than they've ever been, even though in the 80s they definitely had those advantages. Now we've got some disadvantages in the sense that back then the small team was creating effectively a blockbuster game. It was a guy in his garage could create a game that EA was publishing.
Right.
But at the same time, there are more people now out there to buy your game. There are more gamers, and now that we've got downloadable games, it's a lot easier. Like there were BBSs and this and that back then, but the internet has just really made it a lot easier. What has been bad though is it's almost. I think that things are still getting bigger and bigger, and the possibilities are getting better and better. However, we have hit a snag, which is the race to the bottom, the 99-cent iPhone games and all of that. But at the same time, I don't think that 3 years ago, before the iPhone hit it, that it was better than it is now. It's definitely better than it is now. It's just kind of some things get better, some things get worse, but overall, it's on an upward trend.
But what if you just died?
If I died, then there are betas out of the game that people would, I'm sure, distribute. You got one, I think.
I can't help but wish that you had gotten the opportunity to make this game on classic 8-bit systems, because you would have had health insurance. I wouldn't have to be afraid that you will just die tomorrow before the game is done. So selfishly, I want to transport you back to the past in
Good
the
news.
DeLorean. It's in your game
right now, because the game is basically done just with some bugs. So as long as people...
You're telling me it's okay if you die tomorrow now.
It's
You're like,
okay.
listen, Holmes, just I'll die whenever I want. You'll still get your game. That's, well, that's very sweet of you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you is, I've talked to all these developers, such as yourself. Tommy Reffinis was on the show a couple of weeks ago. Tyrone Rodriguez was on the first episode. We had Mike and Alex from Gaijin Games on last week.
Yeah.
And something all you guys have in common is you've all maybe had to die because you've made these video games.
Yep.
And you're all very like-minded. You're all some of my favorite developers, which is why I've asked you to be on the show. And it reminds me a lot of the Image Comics days when all these big-name artists decided to avoid the publisher system, the major publisher system, and get together and form their own company, which granted them health insurance and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever want to like form a super team like that with other guys?
Actually, I mean, we've had this talked about this a lot. Even having some sort of incubator or something where we could share resources. It's pretty cool because right now I actually share an office with 2 other developers who were working on an Xbox game at the time. So we all licensed console developers, so it's all good. We shared an office, and it's been great because even though we weren't necessarily working together, we've been able to share ideas and just have that atmosphere that you... Because I worked a year just by myself in this tiny little cubby office with no windows, and it drove me nuts. And I'd never want to do that again. I mean, that's the indie life. Like, I've got 1,000 stories of how the indie life, I've just been pinching pennies and, like, slogging through the terrible conditions to make this game happen. But the game is that important to me. The game, just like Phil Fish says, I mean, this game is me. And so, yeah, I'll do anything for it.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. You're really... I feel like I'm talking to Ben Affleck. I said this in the post. Right before Good Will Hunting came out. Like, I feel like after this game comes out, you're going to have people chasing after you hard to make games for them. And I'm sure you'll be offered a lot of stuff you don't necessarily want to do. But just the raw determination and passion you've shown for creating this game, and skill and know-how in the process of being a part of every aspect of developing it is just completely nuts, Brian.
Yeah, it's nuts. I think there's just something, the type of the demographic of us that do this, that go all out, go all in, and do it. We got something wrong with us. I think we're a little eccentric in some way, or whatever. But
sure. Well, to me, it's what separates the man from the beast. See, a beast, like take your average cubivore, all it cares about is eating and pooping and porking. And it'll do whatever it takes to make those things happen. So, like, a guy like you, you're not your average cubivore because you didn't make this game in order to get girls to like you or to have more food to eat. You probably have barely eaten in the past 9 years. You've taken it beyond the thinking of a beast into a sophisticated, highly evolved man who wants to create an extension of himself in the virtual medium of video games.
Well,
you're like the next evolution. You're next stage of evolution, Brian Provinciano.
Well, you know, it's really the difference. I guess I refer to people who aren't me as clock punchers. The type of people that... Because I've worked with these people at other studios before, and I've had to deal with these people still. And the people that just go into the office, they don't really care. They just do the minimum amount of work to go home at night and watch TV. And yeah, and it's kind of... If that's what they enjoy doing, as long as it doesn't affect me, then that's all good. But that's... I mean, it's just... To me...
They're working to eat and then just... Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, like, kind of one of the things that made me just pull the trigger and finally quit to do this full time was I felt that I had reached the peak. Like, I had been working in the industry at other companies for quite a while, and I just felt like I was just going in every day, and it just felt like there's nowhere to go from here. This is what I'm going to be doing. Do I want to be doing this exact same thing for the next 20, 30 years? And I was like, no, I need to do something different. And the cool thing about doing everything myself is that it's always different. And so it is not as repetitive, although it does grind at some point.
Well, sure. I'm sure you get to a point where it's like washing the dishes, and you just need to wash out those bugs over and over and over again. And it's not really the creative process; it's the housekeeping process, which is
Yeah.
easy. But you'll be totally done with that soon. Wow, how does that
Yeah.
feel to just be done with like a 9-year project?
It's gonna be weird, but I'm very happy with the game now. It's there were hopes that it would have come out a year ago and so forth, but the stuff that's happened, although I must admit that 70% of my time has been spent on business and production and marketing and whatnot. So it's a shame, but at the same time, that extra 30% of time I've had the past year has really made the game a lot better.
Yeah, yeah. And how did you end up getting it on every console ever? That's not it's something. I mean, as much as I love Team Meat, they were unable to get Super Meat Boy on all the consoles they wanted to get it on, and you've not to pit you against them, but you have managed to get it on everything. Is there anything you missed that you wanted to get it on that you weren't able to put it on to?
No, all the doors are open pretty much. Well, all the doors are open except there are some one company in
Caveats?
particular. One company in particular has a lot of policy issues.
Yeah, I heard they bike row hopped. They just hopped their bikes right into the air. Those bikers, micro hopped.
But I mean, yeah, getting it out on all the systems, it is a lot of work. I mean, porting it to the systems is one thing because Tommy had Meat Boy running on other systems as well. But the work of having all the right error messages and all of that other stuff for each console, and then you've got to set up the icons for the store page and the descriptions and leaderboards for each platform. And I mean, on Xbox, there's a lot of stuff you've got to do. You've got to make sure that the menus have the exact correct items in the right order. Like you'll notice all XBLA games, it's like help and options, blah blah blah. And so you've got to make sure that happens. You've got to have stuff set up where it's like, if someone unplugs the controller, it's got to do this. Plugs in the controller, it's got to do that. It's got to boot back to the main menu. And if they're not signed in, it can't do this, and blah blah blah. So, long story short, there are a few hundred of these things for each platform that you have to deal with and make sure that you abide by. And so that's so the two biggest things that make it take so long on the consoles are, other than paperwork and business and so forth, is dealing with all of those per console, and then the certification and slot process. So once your game is fully done, you've got to submit it to what's called certification, and that takes usually at least 4 to 5 weeks. And that's when you give them the game, they test it to make sure it's good. If it's good, then it moves on. If it doesn't, you're bounced back and you're delayed even more than that. And then finally, once it's done, it might take a month or so, sometimes more, for slot placement, which is the week that they decide to release your game. Because they only release a few weeks.
You just like, that was such an avalanche of horror. Just so many. That's not what you got into this for. Making sure that help and options are in the right. Son of a bitch. Which is the company that's the least painful? Like, if I want to make a game, and what I'm saying is, I don't care how much it sells because I'm independently wealthy. I've got, a gold-plated Mercedes and hamburgers all over the place that I can cook, so I don't have to worry about food or gold. I'm all set. What's just the easiest platform to get my game out on?
Well, the easiest thing is, of course, just PC. And the step above that is Steam, which Steam is amazing. Like, the stuff Steam provides is just, it's miles ahead of everything. You've got your leaderboards, you've got your achievements, you've got everything else. And within those, flexibility of what you can do with them is just amazing. But as for consoles, I would say Sony is probably the best. Like, Sony and Nintendo both are good. But Nintendo, for one, requires you to have an office, which is, I said I saved up for years and I blew through all that money. Half of that was office rent. And that was why I was in this cubby with no windows that was hot, and it was just awful. And and then of course I moved to share an office with some other console developers because, again, save costs, because it was just my bank account was being drained by this mandatory office just so that I can have a Wii dev kit.
And
But
it's not just to get the dev kit, but to keep it, you have to keep your
yeah,
office
I
open?
mean, because the office, it's got to be a secure office. It can't be a home office and so forth. So that's kind of the hitch. Like, I think Nintendo is good to work with and all of that, but for a smaller developer, having to have an office is really, it's it's a quite an expense. And so
Hmm.
for that reason alone, not working with Nintendo, not working with Nintendo hardware, but just for the office alone, that reason I say that it's not the best to develop for. I would say Sony. Like, I just can't say enough great things about Sony. They have just been amazing. And I was talking with them like 2.5 years ago or something, like even before this, and even back then they were amazing. So
Really? Well,
I
that's
I
nice to
just
hear.
yeah, I just can't thank Sony enough for how good they've been. It's from the support they've given me. They're just reliable. The hardware has been good, but the reason why is just, I mean, Microsoft's really aggressive, and so you put your game out on PSN first, and you're not going to get it out on XBLA probably. There are some very, 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 very few exceptions,
Hmm.
but generally speaking, the only way to do it is to go through a third-party publisher. But if you, and even there are some issues which I probably can't get into. But yeah,
Sure,
it's
for sure. So
yeah,
speaking of that, is Retro City Rampage going to be able to have a simultaneous release across Steam, PlayStation Vita, PS3, WiiWare,
yeah,
and XBLA?
yeah. That's it should be. I mean, the Xbox version is effectively
Okay.
done, so it's Uh, still sorting out the final details of things because things have changed. But it, I mean, it's effectively done, and so it's a matter of just sorting out the business stuff. And so hopefully, the other thing though is just like, even though it's effectively done now, and there are just some bugs to be fixed, and it is February still, and I'm shooting for the May release. It's still like it's fully on track for Steam and PlayStation 3 and Vita and Wii. But yeah, hopefully we can still get it out on Xbox by then. That's a tricky thing that has to be
Hmm.
sorted out because
Right, is that more the business side or the
it's completely the
programming side?
business side because
Son of a business. Why do they have business? Who
well,
thought up business? It's the
yeah,
worst.
I mean the hitch here is that it has to pretty much be simultaneously on all the platforms, but at the same time, the business is so slow that it might not be able to be through the gate in time to be out in time. Like it should be. I'm working really hard, but I mean, yeah, just kind of behind the scenes here. It's just it's
Sure.
this. It's a lot
Well,
of.
my definition
It's
of business
complicated.
is worrying about money, usually over art, and also
Hmm.
involving yourself with even more people who care more about money and their own self-interest than getting your ideas out there.
Yeah.
So I say we destroy business.
No,
I
I
want to
mean,
join with you. No? War, the
Beware.
business is good? We don't
Business
need to kill business?
interests.
well, I mean, there are of course.
Pay attention to the chat, Holmes.
No, 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 no.
I
I
love the chat.
Yeah, the Sinistar. No,
Yeah.
I'm not siding with big corporations or anything like that, but it's not that business is the problem. It's just that certain companies have certain policies that aren't in the interest of developers, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess yeah, you need business in order to get some money someday, but
Exactly, yeah.
I wish it weren't so prominent, and I wish it didn't have so much control. I wish it was there to support you instead of have it be something that kind of suppresses your ability to do what you want.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That's it in a nutshell, really. Like ideally what you want is you just want the ability to just be creative and do what you want to, like create the game you want to create. And it's unfortunate that there are a lot of things that get in the way of that.
And do you think after this game, if people start chasing after you with tons of money and give you total creative freedom, that your life is going to be completely awesome?
Well, I mean, my main goal right here is I do want to make other games and have the creative freedom and whatnot, but with this game, my main goal is after it's out is just to have the freedom of not worrying about money so that I can finally relax and
Yeah,
maybe
no
take some
kidding.
vacations or something. That's kind of the first and foremost thing, and then after that I'll worry about making other games.
Yeah,
But
that
it's
makes
just been
sense.
so tough of always having to like just watch my bank account drain and then borrow some more money and just
Yeah.
And just the constant grind of like the game is so close to being done, it's almost out, and then some big like speed bump, it's
Yeah.
or a pothole more like it,
Sure. Sure. Sure.
and it's just been a lot of these, and so every time I get close to the finish line, something happens, and uh, yeah,
I'm so
it's
rooting for you. I can't wait. I'm gonna throw a big party for you when it's finally done. I don't know
yeah,
how I'll do that, but you probably won't be at the party, but I'll throw one for myself.
excellent.
Um, I was reading on your Twitter account that you were having some issue with 2.5D graphics. Is that
Yeah.
something that you're adding to Retro City Rampage that I didn't
Well,
know
what I
about?
mean by 2.5D is the fact that it's a 2D game, but you can jump onto things and jump over things
Oh,
and
right, right,
whatnot.
right.
And the tricky thing about the game is that it, I mean, it's kind of like an extension. It's rather than being a full 3D environment, it's a 2D environment, so you kind of fake things a bit. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, this case in point was that you can't actually jump on top of fences or whatever, for example. You can't jump on top of buildings, but instead they do have a depth to them, and if you're on top of them, then you'll slide off. And
Hmm.
so it was just one of those things. If I were doing it over again, I would have probably made the world just proper 3D, not 2D graphics, but the inner workings of the game would be more 3D, so that you could actually climb on top of things and so forth.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I was all excited that maybe a 3DS version was coming. Not that I'm not excited for
No,
the Vita version.
yeah.
I really like the way that old style pixel art looks on the 3DS. I really like how Kirby's Adventure looks and how BBBBBBB looks and stuff like that. So I'm still
Hmm.
holding out for a 3DS version of Retro City Rampage someday.
It's a tough
But
call, right? Like, I mean, for one, the main thing is just I got more platforms on my plate than one single man in history has ever done.
yeah, no kidding, right?
So
I
I
mean,
can't add
I
anything
hate to
else.
ask you for more, but I'm
But
gonna ask you for more.
yeah,
You know what?
but you know, after this game's released and everything's solid on the other platforms, I might add it to other platforms. But with 3DS particularly, it's a tough call, right? Because it's like I could just port the game over, and that would be good, but at the same time, then you're also kind of intrigued that it's a 3D system, and maybe
Mhm.
it would be cool to do something more. But then at the same time, it's not like I could just flip a switch and it'll turn 3D. The whole world would have to be
Right.
recreated. So I guess it's the whole thing. How far do I want to go? Or maybe that's just worth being a sequel. We'll see.
Yeah, 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 that makes sense. Or like a 1.5 version. That's what
Hmm.
I guess that's what
Like
Tyrone is doing
Cave
with
Story.
Ika-chan on
Oh.
DSiWare. It's not just porting. But it's not quite a sequel either. It's
Hmm.
like an enhanced new version with new enemies and new ideas, but not so much to count as a sequel. So that might be awesome. Is it too late for you to add stuff to Retro City Rampage just to make me
Pretty
happy?
much. I mean, it's pretty much too late to add anything. I mean, we might be squeezing in one more playable character since that's just entirely the artist's work, so I don't really have to lift a finger.
But
So,
would the character play in a different way, or would it just look different?
some of them do, but this one it would just look different. But
Oh, okay.
so it's something that might be squeezed in. But again, that'll take about an hour out of my schedule, and the rest is just all art.
Right,
So
right, right.
things
So
like that
that's
could be added,
okay, okay. Because I had
but
an idea. I
nothing
have a
else is
lot.
going to be. Okay, well, I'll hear your idea.
Will you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I want to hear it.
Thanks. Do you like Cubivore? Thinking about
What?
Cubivore like 24/7 these days, just nonstop thinking about Cubivore.
I actually have explain. I'm out of the loop.
Okay, Cubivore. Cubivore was. I'm thinking about it because, as you probably heard, Nintendo is letting Xseed publish the last story on the Nintendo Wii this year, and it's very rare
Hmm.
that Nintendo has a game they developed published by, especially such a small but scrappy publisher like Xseed. One of the other times it happened is Nintendo developed a game for the GameCube called Cubivore, and it let Atlas publish it here in the
Hmm.
United States because it is a game where you are a animal made out of cubes and like flaps, and you just eat things and poop, and depending on what you eat, you'll grow other flaps that turn you into like another type of monster, so you can get stronger flaps. And I just want to talk to you about it for hours. I won't though, because that'd be a terrible show.
No,
I want to show you these. Yeah, you really should. It's hard to find. I bought it the day it came out. I want to run it. I should have prepared, but I was filming that music video, so I just ran out the door. The instruction booklet shows you like the inside of a cubivore's like digestive tract and how its teeth are shaped, and it's like the most disgusting, bizarre game Nintendo's made in a long time. And I wanted you to put a cubivore in your game. You know how I was such a bastard. Why would I think that's okay to ask you to do? Because I know you can say no. So why not ask? I love it in games when there is like a rare item or guy or thing that you never ever see, except that one time you see it after playing it for like 15 years. So boy, would it make me feel great if there was like a 1 in 10 billion chance that you would jump on a cubivore and ride it around town in your game. Why would that make me feel great?
Actually, there was something that Max the artist drew that hopefully will get in there. I mean, it's functional, but we just don't have the animation functionality. But it is a vehicle of sorts that you can ride. That
Is it a rare vehicle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you going somewhere with that? Did you? Yeah. Rare vehicle.
What is it? Like, describe it in a way without giving it away.
You might play it in the country.
You might play it in the country?
You might ride it in the country.
Is it Garth Brooks?
No.
No? I'd like to ride on Garth Brooks' back for a while. He's husky.
Yeah, now that I've hinted at it, I kind of have to make sure that it gets in there then now. But yeah, it's not a bike, it's not a car, but it's something that you ride. That
a
has
horse?
No, but close. A video game thing.
It's a video game thing from the country that's not a horse. Is it from Donkey Kong Country? I'd like to ride on Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong. Yeah. They're good monkeys.
Yeah, so there might be a monkey that you can ride.
That would be so good.
It's in the game now. I mean, it's a secret in the game, but I don't have the animation hooked up. I'll have to do that because it's kind of goofy if it doesn't have animation, but it's hilarious. Oh yeah, that's Retro City Rampage for you. You got
I can't wait.
Yeah, you got a flying suit with a tail, and you've got a monkey you can ride.
Yeah, I should have introduced you better. I just assume everyone already knows who you are because I've thought about you for so many years now and your game. But you are making Retro City Rampage, which is a video game that's coming to every home console and the PlayStation Vita and Steam. It is a sandbox-style mission-based game that combines Grand Theft Auto-style thinking with a lot of classic video game logic, gameplay tropes and ideas, such as jumping on people to crush them underfoot or shoot them. And sometimes you've done so much smart stuff with the enemies. Sometimes there's enemies that you specifically want to fight, not in a firefight, but to crush their skulls first. So you take the Mario approach instead of the GTA approach. Then you get the Sonic shoes in it, so you can run incredibly fast during certain parts. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you get the Bionic Commando arm, or an arm like the Bionic Commando arm, to latch onto people and things. You get the Tanuki suit, so you can fly, or a raccoon suit. What do you call it?
Yeah, I call it the fly suit.
That makes sense. That's what I'd call it too.
Yeah, because you can fly with it. And
and that's been in there since way before Nintendo brought the Tanuki suit back with Super Mario 3D Land. You've been kind of loving that suit for a while now.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty fun because in RCR it kind of works almost like the arcade challenge related to that. It plays kind of like whack-a-mole, where you're flying through the city just at a low height and you just got to stomp people, because basically Mario can stomp Goombas, the player in the game can stomp people. And in this, you can fly and stomp, so it's like a double whammy.
And there's a lot of one of the things I love about it is there's a lot of rewards for increasing your level of skill. It looks like a simple, I'm just going to cruise around and do whatever I want, freedom-style game, but it's also a very skill-based game where there's big multipliers and rewards for pulling off combos and not screwing up for a long time. I really
Yeah,
can't wait for people to know all the things that I have known about it. Because you sent me a build a year and a half ago or something, and I played the crap out
yeah,
of it. How much stuff
yeah.
have you added since then? How
A
big is
lot.
this
I
game
mean,
now?
it's got the 50 over 50 story missions and over 30 arcade challenges, over 25 weapons and power-ups, over 40 vehicles. It's got the free roaming mode with multiple playable characters. It's got over 100 character customizations. You can go into all sorts of shops. It's got over 80 interiors, some shops, some buildings, and some other things. It's huge. I would say that it's at least I think it's at least on par with Chinatown Wars size wise. The city itself isn't necessarily larger, but I think just gameplay wise, and just I almost think that the content is more than Chinatown Wars, just in the sense that it's got more variety. Whereas
Well,
Chinatown
yeah,
Wars,
Chinatown Wars is spread out, but there's a lot of the same kinds of things to do over and
hmm
over again. Whereas your game, I was doing something new every 10 seconds, like literally just getting the Sonic shoes and having to run through an area that looked like a top-down version of the corridor parts of Contra 1, and then after that getting the bionic arm and escaping. Doesn't he cling onto the helicopter and everything? I mean,
yeah,
yeah, the amount of stuff, yeah?
yeah, like that was something I strived for. That was kind of one of the core pillars of my game vision was to have this crazy variety. And so as much as I've loved GTA, I think that I didn't want to just create another game that was just driving from A to B and shooting all of the time. And so as a result, though, it's almost the opposite, right? Because as an indie developer without the resources, I should be the one doing a game that's just driving from A to B over and over, and they should be doing the game that's got all this variety. But
Sure.
it's funny how, but yeah, so for a while there, every new mission was like a new type of gameplay and therefore required a whole bunch of work. But at the same time, I wanted to that's what I wanted. I wasn't gonna feel happy releasing the game if it was just all driving and shooting.
Yeah, since I've played it, I noticed that you've added a lot of characters from other games, is that right? I mean,
Yeah,
beyond just kind
homages.
of references.
Yeah.
Are- Am I
Yeah.
wrong in thinking that
Yeah,
there's some
yeah, no, there are
things?
homages to all sorts of characters from other games and even some movies and pop culture.
But there's some more recent games. It seemed more like it was turning
Yeah,
into a collaboration with, or at least not a collaboration
absolutely.
because, yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean
not the.
there's a parody of The Dark Knight, so it does just span all over the place. And of course just a lot of certain things because there are a lot of things that games did back then that we put up with, but now we just have no patience for. And so it's got a lot of the modern type of stuff mashed in. Like I know some people hate tutorials, and so I mean the tutorials aren't too much in your face, I hope, but it does have some tutorials to make sure that you're guided, whereas you're not just lost or have to read the manual, for example.
Yeah, there were some arrows. That was helpful. But what I was trying to say is, without giving it all away, is there are characters from other modern games that are made by people that you like that are
Right,
in some
yes, the
involved in the game,
cameos.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And are those some of the other playable characters? Is that right?
Yeah, they'll be playable characters, but they also have their own sub games within the game. And so we've announced the Splosion Man stuff, so you can uh, play an 8-bit version of Splosion Man, and then you fight Missplosion as a boss battle. And then after
Whoa.
that, you unlock the characters so that you can play free roaming mode and just run around the city and explode them and whatnot, explode pedestrians. And then we've got a couple other ones that we'll be announcing. We'll be announcing one of them for sure after GDC, and then the other one we'll probably announce closer to the game's release. But one of the uh, one of the crossovers, that would be giving it away if I gave that hint. But yeah,
Uh,
I really love the crossovers. The crossover that I can give you a hint that doesn't give it away is that it plays like Rad Racer, plays like those 3D racing games, and it supports red and blue 3D glasses. And so that's the crossover game that you play with the character, but then once you beat that, then you unlock the character as a playable character in the normal game.
3D World Runner is in your game?
It's not 3D World Runner, but yeah, it plays like that. Yeah.
Whoa! I freaking love that game. It's
Yeah.
terrible, but I love it.
Yeah.
know that feeling, I'm sure. Yeah, the music is so good. So, how did you choose whom you wanted to allow to enter the world of Retro City Rampage from other titles? Was it because they were friends of yours, or was it because you liked their games, or all
You
of the
know,
above?
I met them after. I just love the games and love the characters. And a lot of indie games now have done crossovers with other characters and stuff. But I really wanted to focus on the quality over quantity. So I just picked a few really core ones and went with it. And so that's why they're not just playable characters. They've actually got their own games within the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. So if you were to, I was talking before about if there was like an Image Comics of indie developers who self-published their own games but cooperated both financially and creatively with each other. If you had to form your own Image Comics of video games with yourself as the captain, do you have anybody off the top of your head who you would ask to join your forces?
I do actually. Like, we've been there. There are a bunch of us in town. I guess I call it people very like-minded with me that are, and we're all working on our own things. But we've been saying that once we're finished our things, that we're going to team up. And two of these guys in town are like AAA programmers with tons of experience. Like I think both of them have been in the industry working on games for 12 to like 15 or more years each. And so one of my next games is definitely going to be 3D. Not AAA 3D, not like super high budget, but I definitely want to do a 3D game, and I'm definitely, or very, very likely, going to team up with one or both of these people, and along with some other people.
Their names, or give me a hint? I'm so curious.
Oh well, they're not really known in the indie community yet. They will be for sure.
Okay. But they've been working in the industry for a long time and worked on some big games?
Mm-hmm, yeah, Vancouver developers. And they're also the type that just like, they just work 7 days a week, work really hard, and just they've got the passion. That's the key, is the passion, like the passion and perfectionism, and you just put your all into the game. And that's what I love working with people who, whatever it is, it's for example, like, I recently referred my realtor, who helped me buy my place, I referred him to my parents, and I referred him then recently to another friend of mine. And I was describing it as just like, he's just so passionate about realty, like that he's just so helpful. And it's like, what I'm getting at is just like, whatever you're doing and whoever you're working with, you want them to be as passionate about what they're doing as you are with what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like,
makes me so sad when so you know a passionate realtor.
Yeah, like he just knows, like he knows what type of stuff you'll be looking for and what you should be looking for, what you should look out for, and just all of these type of things that are just almost like a mind reader, I guess you could say, because he's just that into it that he just knows.
And he really just wants to make the customer feel freaking fantastic.
Yeah, and so now 3 for 3, we all just came out of it just feeling so happy and just like we wouldn't have gotten the place that we wanted without this guy. And so, but yeah, that's just an example. It's like whether it's a restaurant you like going to where the chef is passionate or whatever, but it's just passionate people make the world better. And so you always want to work with people that are passionate. And then that's the opposite of the clock puncher. I would never want to hire a clock puncher. Because
how passionate am I? Am I passionate enough for you? I feel like I need to be.
You got the passion.
You sure? Because
I'm sure
your passion standards are super high. I want to meet those standards.
No, my passion, like it's you've got the passion. Yeah.
I do.
You do. If you were here right now, I'd give you a big bro hug. Bro hug.
Me too, dog.
Yo, yeah.
I'm doing it virtual style. It's a weird kind of just fingers hug. Hope that feels good. Well, if I were to make my own Image Comics of indie developers, it would be you, the developer of Cave Story, Daisuke Amaya, the guys from Gaijin Games, the guys from Meat Boy, the guys from Twisted Pixel, and I'm coming down to it. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Terry Kavanaugh would definitely be in there. Now I'm down to 7. I'm gonna make somebody mad.
I'm gonna make a live stream.
They can't be a jerk either. There's some
from chat room, but that's just me.
What'd you say? I should ask the chat. Is what you're saying, right, Sinistar?
If I were doing a live internet chat show, I would be paying attention to the questions that people have been asking in the chat for the last hour.
What do they want to know? People want to. Oh, they're saying my internet connection sucks too. That's probably the bow tie. Fix my bow tie.
It's always the bow tie.
I want to know in the chat, if you guys don't mind interacting with me in the chat, who should the 7th member of the new Image Comics of video games be that I'm forcing Brian Provinciano to start? In the meantime, I'll ask you some questions, Brian, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Bob the Cat Lowell asks, are you happy with the current exposure that indie games get on Xbox Live? Not Xbox Live indie games, I don't think, but the Xbox Live Arcade. Do you feel like they're doing enough to help promote you?
Well, I think just the red tape for all developers, not just developers, even third-party publishers. The red tape for everyone on Xbox Live should be it should be reduced, and things could be improved. That's the thing, and the new dashboard has it's made things more difficult for people to navigate. I mean, that wasn't the intention, but that's the result. And I think one of the problems with it is that Microsoft, from day one, when they created the Xbox, their goal was to be your living room, to have movies, TV shows, and everything. And that's what they're doing. They've succeeded. They finally succeeded, and they're making that happen. As a result, though, when someone logs into their Xbox, instead of just seeing games, now they're seeing games, movies, and other stuff. And so that's getting their attention, that's getting their money. And that's a big problem. And the other problem, too, now is that last I checked with the new dashboard, when you would go to new releases under games, it would be retail, downloadable, retail, and then arcade. So that makes it even harder for your arcade game to be found. And that's not even indie games, that's arcade games. So
right. So in general, the exposure for arcade games, download.
And I can say 100%. I mean, this isn't limited to Xbox. This is standard everywhere. If you're picture the old dashboard where there were, let's say, a row of 4 or 5 icons or 3 icons, whatever it was. The first icon is guaranteed to get way more clicks than the second, and the second more than the third, and the fourth, and so forth. Sure. And so that's just how it is. So a lot of people worry about games getting buried under menus, where you've got to select 3 menus to get to your game. But even if all 4 icons are on the screen at once, but you have to hit the D-pad 3 times to get to the other one, that one will get clicked on less. And so, and these are all metrics that marketing companies and all that stuff deal with, and that's how they charge for what they charge for certain ads and so forth. But yeah, I guess long story short, yeah, it's a complicated thing, but it definitely could use improvement.
Yeah, all that talking got me thinking about how the digital space is so awful in a lot of ways in terms of exposure. Your game doesn't get seen. That's why so many WiiWare games don't sell, because once you get on that top 20, those are the only games anyone ever actually looks at, which keeps Frogger Returns #1 on the WiiWare charts for like a year and a half, because no one even saw any other games, which makes me fall back in love with retail, which makes me want you to make Retro City Rampage at retail for the 3DS. So, just do that.
I'd love to. It's one of those things that it's just so expensive to do retail now that after the game is released, and I've made money from all the downloadable sales, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's might be unlikely that it'll have a retail release, but it's possible.
I could see Tyrone would probably want to help you do a Polygon-based version of it, like you did with Cave Store. That would be cool. Tyrone Rodriguez is Nicholas. We only have a few more questions left. I feel, we only have 6 more minutes left. I feel bad I haven't asked a question.
I don't know. What's our time limit? Because I could stay longer if you guys can stay longer.
I'd love to, but we have another show that starts at the time. So I'm going to get in a few more. Please ask some more questions if you have a chance. We'll try to do these sort of quick.
Yeah, we'll try to do it quickly this time.
Boogalicious wants to know, at what point did you decide that's it and the game is done? And are there any regrets of not adding one last joke at the last minute?
There are definitely things I really wanted to add that I wasn't able to, but it did get to a point where it's just like this. I mean, I'm running dry here. I've got nothing. I've got to finish the game, get it out there, and get income. And so I did create a story arc. Actually, like I wrote the story arc like 2 or 3 years ago, and so I got the whole story arc in, but then I added some things in between there to kind of fill in the gaps and flesh it out. And then there were some missions I had squeezed in before that that were just really fun and whatnot. But yeah, overall, it reached a point where I just knew that I had to get it out. And especially everyone's waiting. It actually drives me freaking insane. Every time I post news like, hey, here's a new trailer, here's a new, just like troll after troll after troll. We don't care. When's it done? We want it. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm working as fast as I can.
If you were to add one last joke, I would hope that there would be a troll that lives under a bridge in your game that just says, when's it done? When's it done? When's it done? Isn't this out yet?
And I'll tell them that doesn't help it get done any faster. It's right now the bottleneck is just how quickly we can fix the bugs and how quickly we can get it through certification and all that. So complaining isn't going to get it out any faster. So I really appreciate the fans.
They're just expressing themselves. They want you to feel badly because they do. They're just sharing the misery. Another question. Can you give an example of what some of the achievements are, and can you perhaps reveal one of them? And I'm tacking onto that question. Do you want to reveal anything secret other than that cool secret you already revealed earlier that I'm pretty excited about? Riding around on a monkey, maybe? That's so great. Yeah, but if you want to reveal any achievements or anything at all, now's your time.
Let me pull up the achievements here.
Okay, that sounds great. While you do that, a quick question from Boogalicious as well.
Okay, one sec. I'll just...
Oh, you got it.
One sec. Let's see. So, of course, the first achievement is... Oh, sorry.
Riveting television.
Is... So you get there's an achievement for getting sick on milk from the bar.
Just telling people about that.
The first achievement they're going to get is the achievement called "You Broke the Law." So
is that when you break a rule?
You do anything that you would do in GTA, and you break the law.
Shoot a guy, steal a car, or something.
Yeah, and then there was actually it's got 20 achievements, and there were actually some achievements that I had to change or remove because they were too hard, and I didn't want to make all of the achievements absolutely impossible. So most people should.
But you can always release those as things, like challenges people can try to do.
Yeah,
without having to be in game. I want to get this question out real quick because it is a good one, and it's probably a yes one. Since Retro City Rampage is coming to the PS3 and the Vita, is it going to be one of those buy one copy, get it on both consoles thing, or will there at least be cross-platform saves that, you play it on the PS3, transfer your save to the PS Vita and take it on the go, anything like that?
It may be. I'm still sorting out the details, but it definitely will support sharing your save games between the two.
Oh, cool. Okay. So that's almost...
Yeah, I'm sorting out the other stuff, though, so I think I should... The fans should be happy with the end result of things. Yeah. I'm
just happy with the cross. I mean, I don't mind buying the game twice if I get to play it on 2 different consoles. I think that's fair, but being able to take my save with me is awesome. If you had to guess, this would be so hard for you to guess because you've been playing this game for 9 years, but let's say you've never played the game before and you start in at kind of the entry-level amount of skill. How long do you think it would take to be able to get through the whole game and see all of the content?
Long time. I'm going to say that this is the type of game like GTA that you could just play every day for a year straight. But I think to go through it all, go through all the missions and challenges and explore the city, I'm sure it's at least... it's definitely at least as big as Chinatown Wars.
Right, so, that took forever. And I died a lot in Retro City Rampage when I was doing the sort of like Smash TV levels where it was like room after room of tougher and tougher enemies who had better guns. And it also had kind of a Mega Man flavor to it because I really had to choose which weapons I was going to steal from which enemies in order to take on the next room. Really nice design on that, by the way, Brian. I was really enjoying that a lot. That took me those, how many rooms is that? Like 15 or 20?
Yeah, that's another achievement I'll say, is that there's a Smash TV style mission which is like, it's 10 minutes long of room after room of defeating enemies with pretty much, you use like 15 different weapons throughout this whole experience, and it takes 10 minutes to beat if you don't die. It takes even longer if you die. And if you can beat this 10-minute marathon without dying, then you get an achievement. So that's probably the hardest achievement in the game.
Well, that just the level I played, which was an in-game story mission, was really, really hard. It took me forever. I think it probably took me like 45 minutes to get through those 10 or 15 rooms. I think it was the shotgun guys that started to get me. So yeah, you've certainly got no shortage of challenge, but it's always felt like very fair challenge. And when I got through it, it was because I actually got smarter and better at the game, particularly around strategizing, jumping on guys versus taking a distance and shooting guys. That dynamic is really...
Yeah, I think the two biggest things are deciding when you're going to jump on them and when you're going to shoot. And then the other thing is the targeting. It's got an auto lock-on, so you can kind of face in the direction of the enemies and then just hold the button down. And as long as you're holding the button down, you can move around and you're automatically locked on and shooting to them. But some people don't necessarily realize that, and they tap the button. And so I've got a tutorial in there now to teach them, but I'm thinking of even putting in 2 tutorials just to like make sure that people understand that.
Well, as long as they're fun. You know, my big thing, you know, Super Mario Brothers 1,